Today is February 12th and CPI came in and the numbers just do not look good. We were expecting, well, at least the Fed is hoping to get from a target rate of inflation of 2 to 2.5%. They started with 2, now they're like 2.5. Right now they're at 3%, and it's been essentially the whole last 4 years of the administration that they've been trying to get this number down. Of course, they'll be like, well, it was at 9% at one point. Yeah, it was at 9% at one point, but we got to remember this is month over month and year over year. So the numbers every month, when they're going up by 0.5 or 0.2 year over year by 0.3, that's from last year. So just numbers are just keep going up, and the CPI is just kicking our tails. It also means that we don't expect for the Fed to, with the number coming up higher than expected at 3%. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. We don't expect the Fed to be raising the lowering the Fed funds rate anytime soon. You cannot. You absolutely can't. And Trump isn't trying to tell him to do it this time around. I don't know if you remember, but this time in Trump's first presidency, the Fed was talking about raising the rate, the Fed fund rate, and it actually did raise the Fed fund rate to about 4%, I believe. And Trump gave him hell, complete hell, and talked bad about it. This time around, Trump is not talking bad about the Fed or even trying to sway the Fed, even though the president's never supposed to sway the Fed. But if the president can fire you, I guess that is a conflict of interest. Nevertheless, the Trump is talking about trying to get the T-bills, the Treasury, for that to lower. And then obviously everything will fall in line with that. But nevertheless, let's talk about these CPI numbers. All right, so as we go, right here, all items, it's saying that CPI came in at 3%. And then what's really bad is it's up 0.5% higher than it was December, which is also 0.4, which is also 0.3, which is also 0.2. So inflation is still going up, folks. It's not going away regardless of what the Fed is seemingly doing here. Food went up 0.4% month over month and is up 2.5%. Obviously, we should throw out eggs, but because to be fair, the egg flu virus or whatever that's out, that kind of stuff happens. So another thing to take a look at is energy. Energy is up by 1.1% month over month, which was last month it was up 2.4%. So energy is still high, and then of course year over year by 1%. But let's go to what the Fed really looks at. They look at core inflation. Core inflation is all items less food and energy. And core, because obviously a lot of this stuff up here is very volatile. You could have a bad storm, a bad hurricane, bad weather, and energy, gasoline, and food. It could all, just like with the eggs that's going down now. So that's very volatile. But the stuff below here isn't as volatile. And that's what the Fed looks at more closely. And when you take a look at this, they're not winning in this battle at all. Core has gone up month over month every single month, and now it's at its highest since July of last year at 0.4%, with core being above the average CPI, a core being at 3.3% year over year. Moving to even more bad news, shelter. Shelter is horrible with 0.4 month over month. Obviously, you could see every month shelter is rising since July of this report. But right now, it's at 4.4, making things very unaffordable for average Americans trying to just get regular housing. We don't need to talk about transportation. That's up 8%. Absolutely ridiculous. So as you can see, CPI has not come in strong, is not what we want to see. What we can say, though, is regardless if you like this Doge that President Trump is putting out there or the way that he's tackling it, at least something is being done. And what I mean by that is a lot of things are about to change. Just think about it, guys. I should do a video on how many jobs the government, because the two sectors that's been holding up the job market is healthcare and government. Pretty much everything else is a loss. Every other industry, manufacturing, IT, everything's at a loss except for the medical industry and government. And now at this point, President Trump has just issued the ability for whoever's in government to take a break and to quit and to get benefits for a while, to get rid of all this government spending. And anytime government spends money, it creates inflation because it's not money being earned. Very little departments are actually income producing departments for the Fed. Almost all of them just cost money. And when it costs money, it creates inflation because you have to print more money, which makes the money less valuable. And it's just creating jobs, but at the same time creating inflation. Now, Trump is saying, hey, if you're in the federal government and you want out, we'll pay you to get out. That right there is going to hurt jobs, but it's going to very much help inflation. Not to mention when we talk about Doge again, if you can cut out $1 trillion, I mean, let's just say billions of dollars of government waste, that's money that now all of a sudden is not being wasted, which is going to hopefully help tamper inflation. So the goal for it looks like the administration is to kill inflation, which obviously will take 6 months to a year, maybe a year and a half to completely do. But if you're not just giving away jobs just because you say you can, and I know that happens because I know a lot of people in the city of Phoenix, they say that you could get rid of 3/4 of the department and still run the city of Phoenix efficiently. Because that's how much overhiring they do just to spend the budget. Obviously, you got to assume the same thing is with the government doing the same thing. But if you can stop wasting money on hires that don't need to be hired, you could also stop wasting money on money going to other countries, getting just blown or wasted. That's less money being printed, less money being spent, and more of that money going to hopefully pay down the deficit. So this CPI report was actually really bad, and you would say really bad because of the actions that have been taken over the last 4 years trying to tamper this down. Right? They've been trying to say for the last 2 years that they expect inflation to be at 2%, and here we are still at what, 3% CPI, 3.3 core. Well, now what we're doing is we're actually not just trying to put a Band-Aid on this CPI thing. We're trying to kill it. Regardless if you like the way that they're going about it, if you get rid of a ton of waste, you get rid of a ton of expenditures that just don't need to be there, like government jobs that are overmanned, and you stop blowing money and then start paying down your debt or your deficits, that makes our money more valuable. And when our money's more valuable, inflation doesn't peek its ugly little head. So there goes my rant on CPI today. Hopefully it was somewhat useful, and hopefully I didn't go too far any direction or pure off the plantation. Have a good day.